All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick, recording on Sunday night in the middle of Packers-Seahawks. Packers blowing the Seahawks out for now. Today we're going to talk about the Sunday slate of games, the openers for the upcoming Week 16, and then close out with Monday Night Football doubleheader. Not particularly compelling games, but they have compelling elements, which we'll try and hunt down. But let's talk about the Sunday games, Drew. Is there anything you would like to get off your chest, first of all?
Well, stark contrast between how was your weekend and how did today's betting outcomes go. Beautiful weekend, all time here in Southern California. Did some ice skating down at the Hotel Del Coronado in San Diego on the sea. It was just an unbelievably enjoyable time. And then you come home and you're watching the Colts handle things pretty comfortably against the Broncos, just like you were hoping. Jonathan Taylor just running amok down the field. Oh, he scores a touchdown. All right, let's kick our feet up, pour a cocktail. Let's celebrate a little bit. The swing in momentum from a betting standpoint, from the Taylor touchdown to fumble, and then into how the rest of that game played out was like face-meltingly horrific. And there were a lot of results today that just absolutely stunk in terms of like marrying a handicap with an actual final result here. My game-by-game stuff overall today was generally fine, with the exception of the absolute bloodbath that was the Colts game. And my season-long stuff just looks like misery now. Nothing really went my way in terms of shaping an awards market. Amazingly, I feel like there's going to be a Coach of the Year disaster that comes out of this weekend's results, which is going to be just wildly undeserved in terms of giving credit to Sean Payton and the Broncos. I feel like our 14-team playoff field is relatively fixed now. There's a little bit of uncertainty of who wins the NFC West, and that's kind of it. So these last 3 weeks of the season don't have much juice. And honestly, the way that the games were officiated today annoyed me. The way that the games ultimately worked out, wins and losses, annoyed me. The injuries that were sustained to super important characters was annoying. This was a bad day for me.
Well, on the Jonathan Taylor point, I had a friend who was at the game, a Broncos fan, and he messaged me the words Jonathan Taylor, and then it was followed by written textual cackling laughter. And I was like, oh, this is very strange. I saw the touchdown. I saw him celebrate the touchdown.
I walked away.
Is this a strange coping mechanism for what he thinks is the end of the Broncos season? Cackling laughter. And then I saw that the score was still 13-6. And then I looked back. It was one of those ones where usually with that type of play, which happens a stunning amount at the time for what it should, usually you kind of have a sense of like, oh, that looks like you might have dropped it early. Like the Jets one against was it the Bills? The Texans. Whenever
call.
That was.
Yes. Yes.
That one looked in real time like, oh, I think you might drop it. This one I had no idea whatsoever. Just didn't register
clue
in my head.
None.
Alas, Jonathan Taylor, with like 3 weeks to go in 2021, he was the second favorite for MVP. And nothing has gone right since. The Colts missed the playoffs that year because, much to my chagrin, they lost the 17-point favorites in Jacksonville. Carson Wentz, I'll never forgive you for that. And then Taylor was hurt throughout the Matt Ryan year. He was hurt last year, uneven season. Now this year has been a bit of a mess as well. And I mean, the game was done. It was 20-6. Bo Nix was having an absolute implosion.
He was awful today, period.
Yeah, he was awful the whole game. I think the biggest thing I'll take out of today was just the level of attrition and the fact that guys are just dropping like flies, like huge superstars as well. Mahomes, who we'll talk about, goes down. TJ Watt looked like he tore his Achilles for a second. Looks like he's fine, but looked like he was done. Patrick Surtain, we'll see what his availability is like for Thursday night against the Chargers. I have no idea.
Josh Allen got x-rays.
Josh Allen gets x-rays. And then the the just upheaval in Detroit with Aleem McNeil, Carlton Davis, looks like they're both done for the year. Do you think the Lions now are they just cooked with the amount of injuries that they have and the fact that, why are the Lions? Well, it sounds ridiculous to say, given that they just closed 2.5, almost 3-point favorites against the Bills. But now, why are the Lions that much better than the Rams? With the amount of injuries they have on defense, and the fact that I don't think the offenses are vastly different if the Rams are at full strength, notwithstanding them not scoring a touchdown on Thursday night. But still, are the Lions just do they just drop a tier and drop substantially with just another week of evidence about their defense and the added injuries?
Yeah, I think so, surely. I mean, there was some hope that the defense was going to get a surprising shot in the arm with player availability, and they did. But then they were useless and lost more. So, yeah, this is a 5-alarm fire now for Aaron Glenn's defense in Detroit. And the Alan McNeil potentially season-ending injury is a disaster. This is a team that was able to cobble together exceptionally impressive defensive numbers after they lost Aiden Hutchinson, and now they've lost all of their other important players. And it doesn't feel fair. This doesn't feel right. The Lions are a super fun team. They've been the Lions have been a counterparty in at least 5 of the most 10 entertaining games in football in the last 2 years. And if they are, handicapped this year, even as a 1 seed, which feels very unlikely right now, considering how tough their schedule is and the fact that the Eagles can basically moonwalk this thing in with wins, it doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel fair. And Ben Johnson's going to have to come up with an absolute masterclass in the playoffs if this Lions team is going to get to the Super Bowl, which it feels like they ought to, considering that they've been the best team in the NFC now for a while.
Yeah. And to be clear, I think the Lions are better than the Rams, but the market was rating the Lions as 7.5 points better than your average team on neutral, and rating the Rams as 1.5 points better. And I think the gap should be more like half of that at this point with the amount of injuries that the Lions
should the best team in football be more than a +6 right now?
Yeah, I mean,
probably not, right?
The best team in football is the Bills or the Ravens now, I think. And the reason I'm not including the Eagles there, so Jalen Hurts today had 125 passer rating. He was 25 for 32, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 15 for 45, and a tush-push touchdown on the ground. I didn't think Hurts was very good. And it was very Hurts-ish, where he had some valuable rushing plays. He had some nice go balls to AJ Brown, but that game just reinforced that, one, he just doesn't feel pressure. He does not feel pressure on his blind side. He doesn't have that in him. He just doesn't feel it. He has a shocking amount of his pressures convert into sacks. This year that has been particularly glaring. Some of the decision making, throwing kind of shoulder fades to AJ Brown on the left sideline when Hurts is throwing from in his end zone on 1st and 10. It just doesn't feel like, it feels like he has regressed since the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. And the Eagles offense today it was fine. It was efficient, I guess. And the numbers all look good, but I watched the game. I didn't feel good about them really at any point. Saquon getting banged up, hurt a bit again today will be his MVP chances are on life support now anyway, but the fact that he can go 19 for 65 on the ground and they still blow out the Steelers by 14 points, yes, that is why quarterbacks tend to be more valuable than running backs. There is no question that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, they are more valuable and they will affect the spread a lot more than going from Saquon Barkley to Kenneth Gainwell. But what did you make of the Eagles' performance today?
The defense is who we thought they were, Jay. They're sick. We spotted the Eagles had an absolutely atrocious muffed punt by Cooper DeJean. That wasn't a muff punt, I guess. It was a fumble on the return that set the Steelers up to, kind of oh my God, here it goes again, the Mike Tomlin voodoo. But the Eagles defense was masterful. They did everything you want them to do. That was sort of the standout takeaway here. They shut out the Steelers in the second half of this game when the Steelers, I thought, had a very realistic chance to cover and maybe even threaten to win. They did it in particular without having like a big time meaningful turnover. The rushing defense, I thought, really stood up today as they held the Pittsburgh rushing offense to 3.3 yards per carry, and that includes some garbage time runs from the likes of Fields and company. They absolutely put a lid on Harris and Jaylen Warren, and not many teams have been able to do that. So if the Eagles go to the Super Bowl this year, it is going to be because they are keeping their opponents in the low to mid teens, not because their offense is taking a huge step forward. It's a very uninspiring unit, and your commentary about Hurts, I think, is fair. He had 15 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown today, and it felt like they came in with a specific emphasis on using Hurts in the running game, which I didn't exactly understand, and I didn't think was going to be successful. And the fact that it was as successful as it was, I think, is fine. But it's a weird unit, and I think the Eagles, if they do this, it's going to be on defense.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be interesting to say. I mean, the NFC is looking fairly weak now that Detroit are so banged up that maybe it just won't be exposed. And certainly, they're a really good team. They're not going to be like 5-point dogs in the Super Bowl to anyone or anything, but it just feels like this passing game. And Hurts is going to get exposed if he comes up against a really good defense in the playoffs. But perhaps it won't matter. They still have a very high floor on offense, given that Hurts. I don't think he's amazing, but he's clearly solid. And having Smith and Devontae and Dallas got a little comeback and Saquon on the offensive line, they are very good overall. But it feels like the foundations are a little bit shaky. Let's jump to the Week 16 openers. Was there any game in particular that caught your eye with the opening line?
I mean, there's a couple here that I'm certainly not sure I understand why the market isn't, kind of come around on certain aspects here. The games that feature quarterback question marks, like the Chiefs, are obviously the ones that are probably going to stand out to most folks. I am very clearly I guess I thought that the Ravens were going to move across 7. I figured that the Steelers were going to be a bit exposed today. I thought they were. I think the questions about availability for Watt are kind of to me, at least, it seems very, very, very unlikely that Watt is good to go for this game. So
what do you think
Ravens are going to go across 7.
I don't understand it's like a non-contact injury, and then he was writhing in pain. It's like, oh no, low ankle sprain. It's like, what? The game was still in doubt at that point.
That seemed like miscommunication or something along those lines. I really, really don't think he is. That whatever is wrong, I think we're going to learn more, and I don't think it's. I think we're going to get bad news on him. I've again zero inside information, but I think ultimately the Steelers are going to get bad news this week heading into this Ravens game, and that 6.5 is going to be 7.5 by the time we get to Sunday. Colts ought to be bigger number than 4.5. Obviously, it's going to be tough to go back to the well with these clowns, considering the way that things went against the Broncos, but this Titans team's not competing. Cardinals are only 4-point favorites on the road at the Panthers. This is a pretty clear and obvious opportunity for the Cardinals to continue to try to chase down their NFC West foes. And then as I look at the numbers sort of in the later slate, number one, why are we being subject to Buccaneers Cowboys in a primetime slot?
Stuff.
And number 2, why is that number 4? What am I missing?
You didn't like the Cooper Rush experience? He's back.
No.
What about the Carolina Panthers? Yeah. No, it's very difficult for me to disengage from what I saw on Monday Night Football, where Cooper Rush looked like, to my eye, the worst man who had ever played quarterback in the history of planet Earth, with some of those missed passes and going into the Bengals defense as well. But yeah, that is a funny one. What do you think about the Bucs defense now? That because they have significantly improved in terms of their results. In terms of generating pressure, Bowles has put the blitz hat back on, which seems to be his favorite hat. They had, to be fair, a limited Chargers offense with Herbert banged up under siege today. I mean, it's a fairly impressive victory to just stomp the Chargers like that in LA. They came in as 3-point dogs. Do you think this Bucs defense is now? I mean, this is the same unit that gave up 500 yards and 20 touchdowns to Kirk Cousins in prime time, who promptly turned into the worst quarterback on earth next to Cooper Rush.
I think
they fixed
Todd Bowles against the McVay or McVay family tree offense is in trouble. Todd Bowles against everyone else has this fastball still. I don't know what to tell you. I thought the loss of Winfield was going to matter a lot. I played some over in this game, which got there in a weird way. And I definitely don't. I don't see it with the defense, certainly. But this was no nonsense here. So, I mean, going on the road and shutting out the Chargers in the second half was pretty insane. And the way that this game kind of, like the way it, devolved with the 2 punts back to back from the Chargers in the second half, and then the Buccaneers putting up 10 points, and then the turnover, like it unraveled so fast that it felt like uncharacteristic of a Jim Harbaugh coach team. And I mean, like right now, the teams that are in the mix for a playoff spot in the AFC, and like the wild cards are pretty obviously going to be Broncos, Steelers, Chargers. The Chargers feel like the most susceptible based on the way that their defense played today, certainly. But I thought the coaching was good enough that they were going to be able to arrest the type of free fall we saw at the start of the second half, and it just didn't happen.
Well, the good news for the Chargers is they play the Patriots and the Raiders the last 2 weeks of the season. And also the good news for them is that the current team behind them nipping on their heels in the standings for the last wildcard spot is your Indianapolis Colts. So they should be okay. And there are worlds where I think there are worlds where they can clinch as soon as this week, given that I think they would need Colts and Dolphins losses. But in any case, they're still 90% plus or so to make the playoffs. But it could get a little bit messy. And just with Herbert's mobility going up against the Broncos defense, if the Broncos have Surtain at full go, I'm not sure they should be 3-point dogs against the Chargers. So I guess Surtain's availability is in question. Texans-Chiefs, very difficult to talk about, as you mentioned, given the uncertainty around Mahomes. Obviously, the Chiefs will not be underdogs if Mahomes is good to go. That didn't look great. It seemed like Andy Reid implied that Mahomes could have come back in. And we know from the Super Bowl that Mahomes can have a bad-looking ankle injury and then 30 minutes later come in and go for 30-yard scrambles to win championships. So who knows what is going on there with his ankle. The one that leapt out to me is I don't think the Dolphins should be 2.5-point favorites over the 49ers, unless there's 49er injury news that I missed, because if the Niners have their guys on defense, I think that the defense, if Bosa and Greenlaw and Hufanga and Warner are all out there with Ward, then all of a sudden I think the defense is perfectly respectable. Like they just held the Rams without a touchdown, and that the defense was atrocious for stretches when they were down bodies. But if those guys are back, then I think the defense is a decent unit. And on offense, yes, Purdy was comically bad against the Rams, but he's played at a fairly high level all season. And I don't know why the Dolphins would be rated as a better team on neutral than San Francisco.
Are we expecting rain in Miami?
That's great. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Brock Purdy might be a rain at this point, because the rain went away and he still couldn't throw the ball.
He's a freaking full-on gremlin. Do not get Brock Purdy wet. Good lordy. The Brock Purdy in the second half in particular was something. But no, you're right. Like you have to adjust San Francisco down aggressively to get to that fair, I think. And Miami is this was a deflating loss for them today.
Miami, every single time in these big games. I believe in them this week. Never again. I believe now that brings them to 0-76 in big games under Mike McDaniel this era. Unbelievable. Let me tell you.
They might have covered one.
In September when they're playing the Raiders, they are unbelievable. One of the best you'll ever see in week 3 against the Aiden O'Connells of the world. Nobody better. All right, ring in the holiday season with a double dip of NFL football on NBC and Peacock this weekend. It all begins on Saturday, kicking off at noon Eastern as we lead you up to kick off between the Texans and Chiefs. Then on Sunday night, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs travel to Dallas for a date with the Cowboys.
Oh, boy.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, Monday night football doubleheader. Not a great couple of games, to be fair. But Vikings-Bears is compelling in the sense that Sam Darnold has become kind of must-watch television as he fights away those ghosts on a weekly basis. The Vikings are 7-point favorites. The total is 43.5. This is the first game to kick off at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Do you have any bet in this game, Drew?
Is Wemby surely going to win Defensive Player of the Year?
No.
It doesn't feel like this is a fair market. No, I don't know. Just joking. Let's talk about Monday Night Football. I am struggling to come up with angles to these two games. These are games that are obviously, relatively, low consequence in terms of shaping the playoff market. I would expect that the Vikings can win and pick their number here, considering the Bears' pass defense has completely decided to call it a season. The Bears fire Matt Eberflus, and the world wonders, will this give the team a bump? Will there be a mess? Will the locker room come out and fight harder and play harder? And Thomas Brown had done a decent job stepping in as the offensive coordinator after they fired Shane Waldron. And now we elevate Thomas Brown to head coach, and it did feel like there was a little bit of lack of vision and prep and just kind of who is running this team, what is happening, what is going on. When I watched the Bears last week, as they were just complete no-shows against the Niners. Now they're on the road for the third consecutive week. It is at the Vikings. This Vikings team is playing extremely well on both sides of the ball. I think Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson will flex in this game against a pass defense that I think is absolutely on their heels. And ultimately, this is sort of, what happens in garbage time that influences whether this is a cover or not. I think this probably closes as an expensive 7. for the Vikings. So if you want to get in now when it's in the what does MGM have up? Minus 105 range. I think this goes closer to minus 115 by close as people jump off of the sinking ship that is the Chicago Bears 2024 season.
Indeed. You talked earlier about Sean Payton, Coach of the Year. I don't think he's in the mix, but there's a guy who has Sam Darnold at 11-2 that had a win total of 6.5 before the season, and was expected to be in something of a rebuilding year with a rookie quarterback, and now he has a legitimate chance at getting the 1 seed. So I think that guy this market still needs to run through that guy. And also, there's a guy as well, Mr. Quinn, who has been left for dead in this market, but that team won 4 games last year, and people just kind of are penciling in that game against the Eagles as a loss for the Commanders. It's like 3.5, 4-point dogs. Like if they win that game, then all of a sudden that's a momentous victory in the context of the season to destroy the Eagles' chances at the 1 seed. And it's like, yeah, 4-point dogs. Like they're going to be right there for that. And then all of a sudden, there's a path to 12-5 and finishing the season on a 5-game winning streak after you won 4 games last year. So I still think this award goes through those 2 guys. And then Peyton, Peyton's live. It's a good, solid case, nice case. But he's going to go on the road to play Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow the next 2 weeks. And then he's going to have to play Patrick Mahomes in week 18, which I think at this point there will probably be something on the line for the Chiefs in that game. If we assume that the 1 seed is still in play, then if the Bills take care of business. So I think Coach of the Year, it's still uphill for Sean Payton. The market is certainly going to be reshaped after Dan Campbell may have withdrawn his hat from the race, but with not just the loss, but the manner of the loss and the onside kick and everything. But yeah, there's still much to be written there. Let's jump to the other game, Falcons-Raiders. So Falcons 5.5-point favorites. Total is 44.5. Kirk Cousins, who was comically dreadful, played like Brock Purdy in the rain against the Chargers. Thought he was better against the Vikings. Now he had 2 comical picks in that game against Minnesota, but outside of the 2 comical picks, thought he played quite well. And just his ability to, what did he have, like 342 yards or something in that game? And he had some really nice throws. Like physically, he looked fine outside of the very floated pick towards the end. But are you expecting that like this is going to be the last game that Kirk Cousins plays as an Atlanta Falcon, or do you think that his level is more as like okay enough quarterback, and he's just had some bad luck and a bad stretch, and that he'll right himself against a fading Raiders defense that has lost Max Crosby now too?
Fairly framed question, Jay. I think Kirk Cousins is done. I think it's over. I think it's over. Damn. It's sad to say it, and it's like if the Bucks were wobbling and not sprinting to the finish, maybe the overall palette looks a little different. But something happened in the middle of the season to this man, and all of his prep and work and effort to come back from the Achilles injury seems to have regressed. He got, he's not a mobile and athletic giant. He is, is a tactician, and for whatever reason, his specific ability to read and react and believe in his body to make quick decisions seems to have gone out the window, which is where I'm the most kind of lost for hope. And I guess what I mean by that is if you are deciding pre-snap what you're going to do with the football, because your body is not going to let you make a quick decision in the moment, that's it. It's over. And that's what we've seen now in a couple of straight weeks. And the fact that this is coming off of a late bye, and that they're not necessarily playing a demons, row here of potential opponents is problematic. I'm going to take the Raiders plus the points. I don't feel great about it. I don't even really have a strong feeling of who the Raiders quarterback is going to be, Jay. But yeah, it really doesn't matter. It does matter. Max Crosby probably not going to play. The pass rush for the Raiders is still good enough to be a bit of an issue for the statue of Kirk Cousins. But yeah, I think I have more interest in talking about the Coach of the Year race really than breaking down this game in any more detail. And just to go back to your points on the Coach of the Year race, by the way, you know what Dan Quinn and Kevin O'Connell have in common that's going to prevent them from winning the Coach of the Year? I bet on them.
Wow, Doomsday Gin.
Yes.
Return Sunday night.
This is where I'm at today after the Colts do what they did. That was unbelievable.
Don't go down that road. That's like I have a friend.
Unbelievable.
Who every time that Ashton Genty would run for 20 yards, he'd be like, "That's it. That's it for Hunter."
That's it.
Like,
it's over.
I missed something. He's still minus 10,000 in the market. The 20-yard run, did that change it? 20-yard run against Wyoming in a game they're going to win by 4, and they were like million-point favorites. They were fine. Yeah, no, I think those two capture a lot of the equity in that market, and Campbell was taking up way too much equity because he was a bubble who was going to burst as soon as he took a loss, which he has now. Tomlin has a great case, but his schedule was just always going to
lose the next 2 weeks.
Difficult. Yeah. I think he's already in a lot of trouble, and I think he would actually to win the award over. I mean, Dan Quinn's median outcome now is 11-6. Kevin O'Connell's median outcome now is 13-4. 13, even almost 14-3. Like, it'd be pretty evenly split between those two probabilities, I think. Without the numbers in front of me right now, but I think that Tomlin, to actually win the award, he will very likely have to run the slate, which is pretty tough because his slate is not super runnable, given that he plays Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow, who are 3 of the 4 best quarterbacks on earth to end the season. So I think Tomlin is in trouble too. Maybe we should ask Kirk Cousins what he thinks of Luka Doncic MVP, because my boy's got 28, 9, and 8 on 75% shooting at half against the Warriors.
Could he use that against the Thunder last week, buddy?
Yeah. Yeah. That's all right. Shea can have his NBA Cup. No one will remember in April. Though they may remember his 67 wins if the Thunder get there, which seems like they will because they're awesome.
They're tracking for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're done for now. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also, a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.